Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for being here today. This is the usually twice weekly, but this week 3 times weekly live stream where we talk about careers, jobs, resumes, job interviews, discovering jobs, networking, job search, the economy, all that kind of stuff. And not just the theory of how it should work, but the gritty reality of how it does work. So if you're seeing my beautiful, highly attractive face right now, and my extremely masculine drink, get in the chat. There is a chat box somewhere in the vicinity of my face, if you're watching this on a device or on your computer. And if you're a subscriber to my channel, you should be able to ask a question. Let me know what you're wondering, what you're struggling with. Let me know what's going on with you. And I will do my best to help you out. The title of today's episode is Mastering Career Advancement. So I'm going to briefly talk about that in the very beginning, and then we'll open it up to you guys' questions. Internet Vibes, hello, says hello. So hello to Internet Vibes 34. And Seth says, did you say Nitrous? Yes, Seth is the race car painter that hangs out on this channel. So that's awesome. Welcome back, Seth. Yes, Nitrous, because a lot of this stuff, it's nitrous figuratively, right? Not literally, figuratively. Because a lot of this stuff is inflammatory and stupid and unprofessional and rude, like a lot of recruiters. So if you've had to deal with that, let's talk about it. Now, I prepared a topic, Mastering Career Advancement, which is about like climbing the ladder and all this kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about this very briefly in case anyone is interested in this, but we're going to get into a Q&A very, very soon. So I will just say this, okay? And this is just a sort of very brief sort of overview of the stuff, if you care. Obviously, to climb the ladder and stuff, you need hard skills, you need soft skills, right? Technical skills, the thing that you know how to do in terms of what most people think of skills, right? That's usually towards the bottom. That's kind of like what you start out doing, right? But as you climb the ladder, it's about tacking on things on top of that, right? A lot of soft skills, certainly in the beginning. Low-level stuff like, public speaking skills, presentation skills, collaboration skills, that kind of stuff. How to persuade people, networking skills, things like that. And then understanding a lot of the politics involved in many workplaces and how things work. Why people select other people to follow them or they choose them, right? Because a lot of times they hire or they appoint people in their own image, right? They get along with that person. That person holds a lot of the same opinions as they do, so they feel that they can work well together. And if that seems slimy, you're absolutely right. It totally is. And you know what? You're slimy too. All humans behave this way. We all do it. We all tend to prefer people that think like we do, right? Is that a flaw? Of course it is, right? But unfortunately, that's just how people behave. And being tuned into that is very important too. Higher level skills, when you get up to a certain point, you become a supervisor, maybe a functional manager, you go up and you're tacking on other things. The most obvious is people management skills. You learn that sort of a lower level sometimes, right? But you definitely need that. And then you start tacking other things on top of it. How to manage money, right? If you ever get to be a general manager, that means you're responsible for profits and loss, right? Profit and loss, P&L. So that means you have to understand basic accounting and some finance, right? You got to tack on those skills. How to manage assets. That is a combination of technical skills and some higher level skills. And then as you go up even higher, you learn about representing your organization. Because let's face it, the boss, they can't just always keep it real. They always, directly or indirectly, they're always representing their organization. So that's why you have to watch your language, watch your conduct, all that kind of stuff. Although the conduct thing seems to be a bit loose, shall we say, these days. So at least in the news, anyway. So that's where it gets fun. I don't know if this is going to stimulate any discussion here today, but understanding, whoops, as I delete something and then obviously can't get it back. There we go. It's beautiful. Okay, I just deleted my notes in a destructive way. I wonder how that happens in modern computers. There we go. Weird. Oh, I now know my microphone is resting on my keyboard, pressing buttons. There we go. The truth comes out. Okay, other things like learning about networking, learning about personal branding. This stuff matters if you're trying to get jobs, if you're trying to climb the ladder, be a general manager or anything above, right? Unfortunately, this is the way it's done. People have to know you. They have to trust you, right? It's very hard for them to take a chance on an unknown quantity unless you're in the largest of organizations and what you do doesn't really matter to them. You know what I mean? If it does matter and it is important, they need to trust you, right? Just that simple. And so that's why networking and personal branding is important. You can network to a degree on LinkedIn, but it's much more effective doing it in person, meeting people. And for all those people out there that have said, they said in a recent poll on my YouTube channel that the thing that they were most confused about was how to do networking. Let me explain. Networking is talking to somebody and having a conversation, usually about them, usually about what they do, and you can learn what they do, right? That's the fundamental type of networking type conversation where you ask them questions about what they do. It's very simple. It's not about self-promotion. It's all about schmoozing, right? Acting all fake or whatever. You just ask them, so what do you do? How do you do that? Ask them questions about what they do, about why, right? About some of the things that are happening in their world. Usually things that they enjoy talking about, right? It's a learning opportunity for you, and it's a way for them to think that you're awesome, because it's very flattering when somebody says, hey, I'm interested in what you do. Tell me more. I'd love to get your opinion on how this stuff works. I'm interested, and then just being visible within your industry, right? So if you go to events, why won't my microphone stand up on its own? I got one of these arms, and it's really annoying. This is the Blue. Can you guys see this? Blue. So I don't know, is that the company name? Anyway, it's not very good. It's trying to hold up an SM7B, what became the standard YouTube microphone. I had one of these. I had two of these before they were cool, before YouTube sort of made them the de facto kind of microphone. And this thing can't hold it up. It's too heavy for it. It keeps sinking. That's why it keeps falling down onto my keyboard and pressing buttons, triggering certain things. You know what I'm saying? This is how you do that kind of thing. You become trusted because they've heard of you. They know of you. Preferably, they've worked with you, or if they haven't worked with you, they know of you. They know people who have worked with you. That kind of thing, right? It shows that you're valid, shows that you're a real person, right? You're not just some imposter coming in saying you can do everything. No. We know because we've worked with you. You can do it. And then another part of this, very briefly, is rounding out the requirements. You might know from being in a certain industry and being in your industry, if you want to climb the ladder, there's certain things you have to have, right? You can easily see this by going on to LinkedIn and looking at the profiles of all the players in your little world there, in these jobs that you aspire to have. What do they have, right? They have certain education, certain experience, certain other things, right? So filling in the missing requirements. Maybe you need an MBA. Link in the description. Best bang for the buck anywhere. Maybe you need to understand the world of fundraising. Maybe that's important. Maybe you need to learn how to play golf with these people. I mean, whatever it is. They always go to lunch and they always go play golf or whatever the hell. You have to learn golf. I had to learn golf many years ago, but I forgot it, so it doesn't really matter. Figuring that stuff out. And then finally, understanding the effects of seniority. I'm a job hopper. I've worked across 5 industries, and I think the longest time I spent in any one industry was 8 years. But I've spent as little as 2 years in industry before moving on. And, there's certain advantages doing that. You can climb up pretty quickly, but you don't have the reputation within that industry that maybe some of the veterans do, right? So understanding the effects of seniority. And the great thing about that also that nobody talks about is that you can start off in an industry, you can leave for a few years, like 5 years, 10 years, and then come back. And if some of your old coworkers are still around, right, you can still benefit from the seniority, even though you've been off doing other things in the interim. So there you go. Okay, anyway, I just quickly went through that topic there, mastering career advancement. If you guys want to talk about that more, great, we certainly can, but I'm going to open it up to questions. Everything's on the table now. Anything to do with resumes, job interviews, job search strategies, the unemployment, anything, right? Here we go. Okay, Smack Dab says, hey, Bill, I had my first interview today in over 20 years with a recruiter. Wow, okay. And I was panicking on Friday, and I got your Get Hired course and Medea Beeline for the interview section, and it helped so much. I don't know what Medea Beeline is, but cool. But that's great. I'm glad my Get Hired course seemed to help. Interviews are really not that hard. It's just it's mainly like random chance. It's mainly like just happening to end up with someone who's halfway decent. You know what I mean? If you end up with like some totally out to lunch recruiter that's totally not open to hiring you in the first place, it's like a no-win situation. There's not much you can do. You know what I mean? It's not like, you should be able to turn around any situation, with great skill. No. I think that a lot of these things, you're dealing with often a gang of idiots that don't understand the first thing about like how to assess someone's value. And we all know they've proven this, like professors in universities, doctors of business administration that study this stuff, they've proven this over the years with a ton of data that job interviews are extremely ineffective in determining which is surfacing, like who is the best hire and who wasn't, spotting talent is extremely hard, and it's even harder when you throw idiots at the problem, and really tie their hands doing it on a budget and so on. So I'm glad it went well, I'm sure you know your stuff after so many years in the workforce. So that's great to hear. You're absolutely welcome. For what little I did, I'm glad that my course was helpful. And for anyone else who is interested, that's the course right there. If you're really lost right now, that's all my advice all in one place. Beginning to end with templates and processes and all that kind of stuff. So if that's any use to you, check that out. And that's probably going to be of particular value to people who are introverts who want to learn how to network. I give you a way of networking, a couple of options there, what introverts can do, where it's all like mainly online, and and it can get your results, right? It's direct outreach, a couple of different methods to do direct outreach. So check that out if you're interested. Seth says, how do you deal with emotional people in business situations? With awkwardness, usually. That's a very general question. I've dealt with like customers who are upset at the customer counter. You know what I mean? So they're very angry. I've been in that situation before. I've dealt with employees that, break down upon getting the news that they're being let go. And I've seen executives cry in a management meeting when the chief financial officer revealed in a company that at the end of this week, they wouldn't be able to pay their workforce. And they broke down crying in the middle of the meeting. So, I've seen various things over the years, as I'm sure all you guys have. It's not easy sometimes, you fall back on a few sort of catchphrases, a few kind of default ways of behaving, like for example, if somebody has lost someone, what's the first thing you say? I'm sorry for your loss. Things like this. You fall back on a few sort of things the protocol says that's the correct way to act. And then you can go from there. You can add sort of your own stuff. If you've been in that situation several times, you'll probably add more of your own unique way of behaving and handling it because you've been around the farm a few times. If it's something new for you, you don't have a lot of experience with it, you probably just fall back on the protocol that you've been trained. That's how you behave, right? You know what I mean? It's never easy, and we do our best to avoid that kind of situation, starting with treating people properly in the first place. Even if you treat everyone properly, it's not possible to avoid this stuff 100% of the time, but it really minimizes it if you decide not to be a jackass to everyone you encounter. So I don't know if any of this is helpful in any way, but that's what I have to say about it. Internet Vibe says, is the more experienced person always more favored over an entry-level person, for example, over entry-level position? No, it isn't. And if you're looking for a sort of gold standard rule that always occurs, you're not going to find one because every situation is different. Every company, first of all, every organization has a slightly different way of assessing people's value, their worth, their capabilities, right? That's why whenever you go to job interviews, it's usually different. It's not exactly the same, and certainly the outcome is not the same. You could be asked the same standard questions, right? You go to one interview, you give your answers, they reject you outright. You go to another interview with a different employer, they give you the same sort of questions, same standard cliche questions. You give your same answers to them too, and they hire you. You know what I mean? They have different ways of assessing people's value and worth, right? A lot of it is based on what I mentioned a few minutes ago, which was that people tend to hire in their own image. So an extrovert will tend to hire an extrovert. An accountant will tend to think favorably on a candidate who's also an accountant, right? And so on. Somebody who has experience fixing cars will tend to see the value in a candidate that has had experience fixing cars. You know what I mean? We tend to place undue emphasis on the things we have. We tend to inflate their value, and we tend to underestimate the value of things we don't have, right? Partly also because we don't understand it, because we ourselves don't have it, right? So there's no ironclad rule that says that the more experienced candidate will always get, the entry-level position or something. A lot of the entry-level positions, a huge thing that the interview is based on are your soft skills. The reality is that there's many people out there who could do the job. A lot of the candidates who applied, they could do it, But the real question is, if you're the hiring manager, you're the boss that's hiring an employee that reports to you, right? Who would you want to deal with? Would you want this person or do you want that person, right? Some people are technically qualified, but they're very awkward. They take offense very easily. They have a very, quick temper. They are not easy to talk to or pleasant to talk to, right? When the boss goes and talks to an employee just to communicate information or get an update, the boss doesn't want to go back to their office feeling upset. They want to feel like, oh, that was fun. I always enjoy talking to that employee, right? So who do you hire if you were the decider and you're talking to several candidates? They're all qualified. They can all do the job. You'd pick someone that probably clicks with you, right? So that's a big part of it. So when you go down to job interviews, a general rule is just try and be super friendly. I know that you probably feel like you're in living hell, but force yourself to feel upbeat, positive, easy to talk to, right? You're not like awkward and on edge and uncomfortable, because they won't want to deal with that person as much, right? So that's why that stuff matters a lot. And in entry-level positions, that's a big factor. Much more so than, this person has 2 years experience, that person has 6 months experience. You know what I mean? Anyone who comes in for an interview, who they call in for an interview, on paper is qualified to do the job. It doesn't make sense for them to call someone down for an interview who, when you look at their resume, is ill-equipped to do the job. Like, it looks like they don't have the necessary requirements to be able to do this job. They wouldn't understand what to do, right? Does it make sense to bring that person down for an interview? Like, why? Even if you like them, even if they're wonderful as a person, they still don't have the skills, right? So all the candidates they bring down for an interview are qualified on paper. Now, the only question is, maybe they're lying on paper. So if they give you like a couple of skill testing questions and you pass them, no problem, they just assume that, okay, yeah, you're qualified. Now, let's go from here. Are you professional enough? Are you easy to deal with? Do we enjoy dealing with you? Is it easy to deal with you? Things like that. Do you seem like you're interested at all in doing this work? Because many people will want the job just to get money, but only a few people will want the job because they enjoy doing that work itself, right? That's what, in theory, they're looking for. That's what they're hoping to find. Okay? So that stuff usually takes more priority than precisely how many years of experience you have and all this kind of thing. Does that make sense? Internet Vibes 34? Seth says, okay, that makes sense. Oh, that was the emotional people, yes. There was a movie that they made. Everybody's talking about Gene Hackman, right? Because of his recent death. Kind of a bit of a drama there, a soap opera. There was a movie he was in many years ago called The Birdcage. And I just remember there was a guy in the character in The Birdcage who like went to pieces over like everything, right? I've worked with some people that are kind of like that, So you're asking about, emotional people in business situations. Yeah, there's some highly emotional people that go to pieces over like almost everything in the workplace. It's good and bad, I suppose. It's good in that like it makes things a little bit more exciting, brightens up the place, but it's bad in the sense that you're there and you've got to deal with it, and it gets really annoying. Guido says, any recommendations to go the extra mile during the probation period and make a good impression? This is what I would say. Go to your boss, okay? Like the person that, they're like the decider. Their opinion of you is what really is the be all end all, okay? Go to them, I would say every 2 weeks. Like depending on how long your probation period, if it's like 3 months or something, I would go to them every 2 weeks. And go to them when they're not like busy, they're not like annoyed. Maybe at quitting time, everyone else is going home. They usually stay a little bit longer because they're the boss or something. Just knock on their door. Just say, hey, you got a few minutes? Is this a good time? And then if it is, they'll say, yeah, sure, come on in. Right? And then just say, so how am I doing? Is there anything that I'm doing that you would prefer that I do differently? I'm just looking for some feedback. Right? And, sometimes they'll say, no, you're doing fine. Other times, if there is like an issue, they'll say, actually, it's great that you're here because I was going to mention to you, when you do this, I prefer you do it this different way. That would make my life easier if you could do it that way. And you say, no, not a problem. I will take care of that. Thanks for letting me know. And that will help. Okay, like every 2 weeks or so, just check in with your boss and do that. And that will signal that, first of all, you care. Okay. Secondly, it'll allow you to knock it out of the park. You're going to improve. and do things exactly the way that your boss wants them. Okay. And if they do have any issues with you, this is a great sort of platform to tell you in confidence. It's in private. They can explain, and sometimes they might not have gone up to you and mentioned it. It's not that important, but when you prompt them for it, then they'll mention it for you. And so you actually do those little improvements that they're hoping you would do. And that can make a big difference. Okay? It's a double whammy. One, it has intrinsic value. You actually improve. Two, it signals that you're trying to do a great job and you care about their opinion and about your performance. Okay, so both of those will help your cause. Seneca says, what are your thoughts on ATS system? Well, an ATS system stands for applicant tracking software, at least in this context. That's what we're talking about. And what it is, it's a filter that recruiters use on, recruitment and selection software that like manages candidates and stuff. So what it does is, usually a feature of it is it does like a sort of pre-screening filter, right? So if you email in your resume or you do it over a website, it will take your application, which usually includes your resume and maybe some other things, and it will filter it so that if you're woefully unqualified for the position, it won't even show your resume to the recruiter. Like the recruiter doesn't see that. It sort of takes, this is really useful these days if you're getting like 800 applicants for like these posted positions and stuff. The recruiter's not going to be able to sort through 800 applicants, but they can sort through 30, you know what I mean? So the ATS system will sort of do a pre-screening filter of applications and then present only the ones that pass certain basic criteria to the recruiter. Now, so it's useful for, from that point of view. If you're trying to play this game and you're trying to apply for jobs where you have to go through an ATS system, and that means that you're applying for posted jobs, because pretty much almost any job you apply for that's posted online that you submit an application before, you can assume it's going through an ATS system, okay? So if you're playing this game, if that's how you're applying for jobs, there's certain things you have to do to get around ATS systems, or at least some basic, rules. Like, for example, keyword matching. If they've said, we want someone who has this, and this, if they've said that right in the job posting, your resume better start talking about like having this, and this. If it doesn't mention those things on there, or it doesn't mention them using the lingo that they've used, then the ATS system will filter you out. So you have to talk about those things using their words, not the way you would describe it, but the way they've described it, okay? Because these things are dumb. They don't understand like synonyms and things. And feature it very prominently. Talk about them towards the beginning of your resume. Someone that I do a collaboration with on this channel regularly, Abby from the YouTube channel Life Work Balance, she recommends putting some bullet points at the top of your resume that say these are the requirements. I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have this. And that mirrors the requirements that they had in the job posting. So it passes the ATS filter, right? Simplify your resume. Don't have like all these different text boxes and fancy graphics. That confuses some of these ATS systems. Okay? And then you can maybe get to the point where you get an interview. I basically don't recommend any people do any of this. I think that I would encourage you guys not to apply for posted jobs as your main sort of job search strategy. Most people don't get hired by doing that. Most people get hired by some variant of networking. So focus on that. Focus on things like direct outreach, where you look at all the employers around you that have potential to hire you. You ignore the fact whether they're hiring or not. That's not important. And you reach out to the individuals in the company and basically send a short message that says, hello, I do this really well. If ever you're looking for someone to do this, let me know, because I'd love to work for you. Right? That's called direct outreach. That's the simplest form of direct outreach. Just like you could apply for 100 jobs in a day, right? If you're sending in 100 job applications, just like that is possible, you can easily send 100 of these messages a day, right? But the difference is that for posted jobs, you're going in with like 800 other people that have applied for it. For direct outreach, you're going in with maybe 2 or 3 competitors, if that. Usually it's less than that. It's usually between you and one other person, you know? So the odds are a hell of a lot better, and it's just far more effective. And this is where all the good jobs are, not in the posted job market, in the hidden job market, and you surface them by doing things like direct outreach. So if this is all like new and weird to you, you've never heard of this and it seems strange, learn about it. I have a course that talks all about it. Okay. Do your own research. I've got other videos too, like free videos on my channel. In the description box of this video, I've got a link to 2 videos I've done. One is called The Hidden Job Market. The other one is called How Successful People Get Jobs. Watch those videos. That'll clue you into all this. This is how most people get hired. The reason why you don't hear about it more often than you do is because a lot of recruiters have a conflict of interest in telling you that you should do something that doesn't require a recruiter to get a job. You know, that's one of the reasons why you don't hear about this often. The other reason, of course, is that the people who do this don't want it common knowledge, because then it's more competition for them. They'd rather keep other people out of it, so it's more for them. And I can certainly understand that, but I mean, of all the people that are going to see this, which is practically almost nobody, that's not going to make a dent. So if you're here, check it out. Don't take my word for anything. Go and corroborate all this through a variety of different sources. Do your own research, and you'll see that this is true. This is all true. You know, that's how you get hired. That's how people tend to get hired later on in their career, for a start. Anyone who's ever had to change careers, you know what I'm talking about. This is the way you get hired if you're changing careers. Anyone who has like a massive work gap, you know, this will be a lot easier for them to do than getting hired through a recruiter, because they look at a massive work gap, like a gap in your resume and your experience, and they go, oh, I'm sorry, that's too much of a risk. Right? Or executives or managers tend to get hired almost exclusively doing networking and not responding to posted jobs. So that's what I think of ATS. I think that, you know, if you're wanting to play that game, you can learn about how to get around it. But the goalposts are always shifting. It's an endless game of cat and mouse, you know, trying to overcome ATS, like measures and countermeasures. I think most people, what I'd recommend for you is you don't even play that game. It's a waste of time. Go and focus your efforts on something that's far more effective for getting a good job. Where did I leave off here? So that's my thoughts on an ATS system. Guido says, very helpful, thanks. The position is almost full remote. Would you ask for a separate meeting then, or a call? Okay, we're talking about, this was for, what was it? Any recommendations to go the extra mile during the probation period? Okay, the probation period. I don't know. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what the details are, so I can't say. Sorry. A general rule is to, if you can meet in person, meet in person. That's far more effective. The second choice is a phone call, like phone calls down here, and then below that, things like email or text, right? So if you can meet them face-to-face, do a face-to-face meeting. That's always the best option to persuade someone, to have them take you seriously, to have them, to get their full attention, right? And have the best, most dramatic effect. So just going on that, I would say meet them in person, but I'm not sure of the situation, so hopefully that helps. Sanika says, about LinkedIn, I'm not connected to anyone in uni, like university, I guess. but I want to network, but I don't know who to connect to. Seems weird connecting to random people. Yeah, don't connect to random people. Go into the description box of this live stream. And like I said, about 2 minutes ago, there's a video called How Successful People Get Jobs. Watch that video. That will give you a full, complete answer to your question. And it's also a visual demonstration of what to do. Okay? That is a tiny subset of my course, the Get Hired course here. So if you want to go deeper, get that course. That's where I put all that knowledge. I can't put it in a video. There's too much. It's a very monolithic thing. Lots of principles all stacked on top of each other. But if you learn the principles, you take your steps into a much bigger world. There's all kinds of jobs out there. They're not discoverable through looking online to look at posted jobs. Only about 20% of jobs that are out there are actually posted. The other 80% are not posted. That means they're hidden. You can get those. You can discover them. You can get them. But you have to do things like direct outreach to expose those. Okay, so watch that video, and then you can come back and talk to me after you've watched that video. But that's kind of the first step. Pranay says, I stumbled upon a job position where they are asking a bunch of questions in the job application, like a lot of questions which will take almost 2 to 3 hours to fill in. What's your opinion on it? Okay, there's two things going on there, Pranay. Number one is if this is like an online application, okay? What they like to do is they like to separate out questions that they ask you on the application. A popular one is, what are your salary expectations, right? And they make it so that you have to put a number. You can't skip the question. You can't put a range. You can't put any words. You have to put a number, right? And the reason they do this is because it's a go, no go filter. It's like a sudden death filter. So if you ask for too much, or sometimes too little, or both, they eliminate you there and then. Your application doesn't go any further, right? So you submit it, but no one ever sees it. It gets filtered out, right? That's why they ask like certain specific questions on job applications a lot of the time, like if they're online. Or they used to do this with paper applications too. They could easily ask you those questions in an interview, but the reason they're asking them on the application is to filter you out. So be aware of that. The second thing that's going on here, the second principle, is that, you see, I was mentioning a couple of minutes ago that, when you apply for a job online, a lot of times you're going in with like 800 applicants, right? And the problem is that, some companies, they want to cut down on the number of sort of nuisance applicants they get, right? And one of the things that they're looking for anyway is candidates who are actually interested, like legitimately interested in either the role or the company itself. Like they specifically want to be in that exact role, or they specifically want to be working for that exact company, right? They're not just out like looking for any job that will pay them. They want to work here, right? Recruiters are looking for those types of candidates. They're trying to find those types of candidates, right? Now, one way of surfacing who's actually genuinely interested in working here for us is to give people a big, long application process, right? Lots of hoops to jump through. And the idea is that only the most interested people will actually make it through to the end of this cumbersome, lengthy application process, right? So that's a known thing. Now, I don't know whether that's what's going on in this particular situation, but if I had to guess, I would say yes. Okay, just playing the odds. They make it a very lengthy, cumbersome process because a lot of people will give up. A lot of people won't put in the effort and time to do it. And that's how you filter out people that were never really particularly interested in working for them specifically or working in that role specifically, right? So it's almost like a filter at source kind of thing, right? So it could be that situation. Now, if it is, what I would say is if this is a job you specifically want or a company you specifically want to work for, then if you want to play their game, you got to play by their rules. So take the 3 hours to fill in the application, right? But if you really don't care, like this is just one of 100 jobs you're applying for that day, screw it. Like why put this much effort into something, if you don't really care, right? You could spend that time and energy applying for many other positions. You know what I mean? So that's what I'd say about that. SmackDab says, "Hey Bill, if a recruiter asks if you are interviewing with any other companies at the moment, what do you think is a good response?" Go watch the video I just published like a week ago, because that's what it's about. Hamza says, "What's up?" Hamza always shows up to say, "What's up?" What's up? You got to start putting like more colorful punctuation and symbols and all that kind of stuff to convey, the stupidity of what you're saying. It's like people all liquored up and, they're off on cloud nine and, partying with their friends and stuff. And then they say something like this. There's going to be more colorful punctuation, capitalization to convey that. Hamza says, "I submitted a resume and application to a position at a museum as a museum host. Somehow I can't picture a museum host going, 'What's up?' Although I think more of them should. It would liven up the museum. On Saturday. Should I call the hiring manager? If so, what should I ask?" Well, the obvious thing is if you submitted a resume, you could say, "Hey, my name is Hamza, and I'm just following up to see if you received my application, for this. I'm not sure if you guys are interviewing anyone for this role yet. I'm just wondering what you can tell me about that." Something like this. And then whatever they say, "No, we haven't applied for it, or we haven't started yet," or whatever they say. You say, "Okay, no problem. And then you could ask them for information. When do you think you will be applying for it or interviewing for it? What's the time frame?" Right? That's a good general question. And then they say whatever. They either answer your question or they say, "We don't know," And you can end by just saying, "Okay, no problem. That makes perfect sense. Listen, hopefully when you do, you will get to mine. And I just want you to know that I'm really looking forward to interviewing with you guys if that occurs. And I'm really hoping it does. Thank you and have a great day." Something like that. So just following up. Do you know what the time frame might be when you might be interviewing, or you might be possibly looking at some of these applications? Or if they already are, do you know the time frame for, how long this is going to take, this kind of thing. And then at the end, you just do a plug and say, "Okay, no problem. Well, when you do, just so you know, I'm really hoping you'll interview me because I think it's a very exciting opportunity. And I'm hoping that we'll have a chance to speak more about it. Thank you. Have a great day." Something like that would be probably good. Wesley says, "Thank you. I have an MBA and a healthcare admin license and trying to get my handyman..." Oh, this jumped on me. Where did that go here? Sorry. Here we go. Okay. "I have my MBA and a healthcare admin license and trying to get my handyman business listed." So you got an MBA and you got a healthcare credential and you're doing like a handyman business? That's kind of interesting. "Is it a waste of time to fill out job apps on their personal website and do all their tests?" Listen, I don't know if it makes sense to do any particular action unless I first know what your goals are, or what your situation is. For some people, that would be a waste of time. For others, it wouldn't. It really depends on what's your plan and what's your goal and what are you trying to achieve. A lot of what I said to the last person who was asking about this, Pranay, I think may apply to you. So I'm not sure if you want to go back and listen to my explanation I just gave about that, if you just arrived in the chat. But you know what I mean? I mean, for a start, I'm just confused about MBA, medical, and then handyman business. So I'm not sure. If you are changing careers, like the handyman business is like an entrepreneurial type thing. It's like a side hustle or a home business or something. And so my first question is, if you got a home business, why are you applying for jobs? So, you'd have to give me more information, Wesley, so I could answer that properly. Pranay says, was laid off. Oh, sorry to hear that. I've applied almost similar kind of questionnaire, spending 2 to 3 hours. I got into the interview, did 4 interviews, but rejected. I spend sometimes here to apply for that job, always a bet. So listen, Pranay, your job search strategy or job search campaign, whatever you want to call it, ideally you should be doing more than one thing, okay? So if you're applying for posted jobs, that's great, okay? That's fine. You can do that, and it seems like you've been getting interviews doing that, so that's good, okay? But don't just do that and nothing else. Also do networking, do hidden job market stuff, okay? There's a lot of other things you can do, right? Like when I say networking is like an umbrella that encompasses like many, many different types of activity, right? So for a start, networking can involve like reaching out to former coworkers, friends, family, people like that, people you went to school with, that kind of stuff, right? And just saying, I'm here, and I can do this, and I'm wondering if there's any opportunities that you know of near you. That's one form of networking. I actually don't recommend that. I don't think that's the most successful thing because it requires other people to sort of champion you. And usually other people, even though they're friends and family and they're people they're generally less enthusiastic or less able to go and do a bunch of work on your behalf. You know what I mean? So if you've got a lot of great connections and stuff, great. You could try that. But that's an absolute basic lowest form of networking. Then there's direct outreach that we talked about already today. That's where you reach out to the employers near you. Companies that have potential to hire someone with your skills, right? It doesn't matter if they're hiring right now or not. You don't care about that. A lot of jobs are hidden. Most jobs are hidden, so they're not going to be posting it one way or another, right? So you reach out to the individuals in the company. You need to know what individuals to go to. You need to know what to say to them. And you could do this over LinkedIn. And that can drum up a ton of opportunities for you. I mean, I've done that. I've built a consulting business doing this. So I talk about that in my course, by the way, that thing. Another method is like slightly more advanced, is with informational interviews, where you essentially do the same thing, except that you don't send them a message. That's not the goal. Instead, you send them a meeting request saying, I'd very much like to talk to you. I'd very much like to get your expert opinion on this industry or something like that, right? And then the goal is that you meet. And it's not a job interview. There's no mention of jobs. You're trying to learn from the person. And in so doing, you're meeting a new person. You're getting them to like you. And there's a variety of outcomes that can come from that. One option is to just then go away for a couple of weeks, but then come back and send them a message again and say, hey, I was thinking about what you were saying to me, and that was actually really interesting. And I'm thinking, listen, if ever there's any opportunity where you are for me to come in and do this, please let me know. I'd love to work in that situation, based on what you told me. Something like that, right? So, I mean, there's that's one possibility, right? So it just opens up. There's all different kinds of things you can do, right? So it's worth your while to learn about this world, okay? You could have arrived in a city yesterday, a new country, a new city, absolutely nobody around you, and this is what you can do to get jobs. Instead of going to a job interview talking about how you have all these things, how you're professional and how you're a go-getter and how you have skills, instead, you're demonstrating this stuff firsthand for these people. When you reach out to them and they end up saying, yeah, sure, let's talk. And then they meet you and they see that you're a professional. You have great social skills. You have great interpersonal skills. You're very persuasive, very charismatic, right? And it's very flattering to get somebody calling them up saying, hey, I'm interested in what you think about this thing you do. And I'd love to hear what you have to say. You know, they'll like you. They'll love you, you know, for doing that. Right? A lot of reasons why people accept those is they feel flattered, you know? Someone says, can I just get 30 minutes of your time so I can learn from you? Because I find what you do extremely fascinating. How would you feel getting that from someone if you felt it was genuine? You'd probably feel very flattered. You'd probably say, sure, I'll talk to you, you know? And if there is a position there, right, and they like you, and they've already met you, they've already seen that you're awesome, and they get along with you, you'll probably be in the running for it if it's something you can do. Right? So step into this world, investigate this stuff. You know, there's much more opportunities out there than simply looking at job boards. Okay, that's something like 20% of all the jobs that are actually out there. The other 80, you can get those. You can surface those. You can put yourself forward for them, and that's usually where the good jobs are. Where did I leave off here? Wesley, I think. I need a drink of something. A little bit of a dry mouth. Lots of chatter that I do. Wesley says, yes, I'm having a hard time getting Google to list my handyman business. I haven't worked in healthcare for a while, so I'm applying there as well because I have a wife and 4 children to support. So you're just kind of like looking for anything kind of thing. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, like pursue everything. You know, Internet Vibe says, does LinkedIn work for networking? Yeah, that's its entire purpose. Patrick says, I've always been curious. Do questions asking about your race, gender, or veteran status matter? Well, it sounds like you're in the US. They shouldn't, as far as I know. I mean, depending on what country you're in, what region of the world you're in, they shouldn't be asking that stuff, as I understand. There'll be local laws on whether they're even allowed to ask that, right? And I mean, let me put it to you this way. If it didn't matter, why the hell would they ask you? Of course it matters. Yeah, and they use it. Even when they're not supposed to, they use it. So that's why they're asking. So the problem, once again, is that if you're going through their process to get a job, if you're responding to a job posting and you're going down for a job interview, and you're filling out job applications and then going down for an interview, you're playing by their rules. You're playing their game, okay? So if you want to play that game, you have to play by their rules. So if they're asking you these questions, I would say you probably have to answer, okay? Now, the good news is that you don't have to play by their rules, and I recommend that people don't. As I just spent the last 10 minutes at least talking about, there's much better ways of applying for jobs or finding a job than responding to internet job ads, right? And going through the standard HR process where you talk to some idiot recruiter that doesn't know anything about anything and they go through this process. It's better to go the networking route because usually a lot of managers, wherever they are in a company, if they want to hire you, they can damn well hire you, you know, regardless of what HR says, you know. And most of the time it works like that. HR simply fills in the forms, does all the paperwork, right? And leaves the job of deciding who to hire to the people who have a little more ability to do it, which are the managers, the functional managers, right? So, does that make sense? They ask for a reason. It does matter. If you're wanting to play their game, and these are their rules, it's kind of hard to like say, no, I refuse to answer any of this, and then have them like hire you. But everything happens some of the time, so you never know. Pranay says, thanks, Bill, for the advice. The job market is tough right now. I'm in tech support role. I don't have a degree, but made it through my career building skills and experience. Yeah, that's great. So, okay, you've talked about the education, you've talked about actual experience, like training, you have skills and experience. That's great. You need the third element, which is the people skills, right? Even if you're an introvert, even if you're a technical person like me, I'm a technical introvert, but I've been a CEO. You need to tack on the personal skills, soft skills. So you need to be able to meet with somebody and have them enjoy talking to you. Even if it's like a job interview type situation, you need to be able to go down there and you're having a terrible time probably, but you have to make sure that when the interview's over, the interviewers think, wow, I just met Pranay and they're awesome. Like I enjoyed that interaction. It wasn't awkward. It didn't drag. It was actually fun. It was interesting. I'd like to talk to Pranay more. If I could choose which of these people I'm going to work with in the future, I would choose Pranay. It has nothing to do with your experience. It has nothing to do with your technical skills. Usually in these situations, all the candidates have the required technical skills and experience, or else there wouldn't be any sense in bringing them down for an interview, like we talked about earlier, right? So it's a question now of like, who would you rather have? Who would you rather deal with on a day-to-day basis? Well, I just had, an hour with Pranay and it went really, really well. I enjoyed meeting him and I think he's awesome or he or she, I'm not sure. And, that's the person I'd want to work with. So that's who I'd want to hire. Right? That's like the third sort of component. You got education, great. You got skills and experience, great. What are your soft skills? So the good news is that soft skills are the easiest of the three to tack on. It's nowhere near as lengthy or as hard as getting education or spending years getting experience in a job or a skill, like a technical skill. This stuff is a lot easier. It just takes a little bit of knowledge of what to do and a little bit of practice. And you learn what to do and then you practice it. And you will be a master of it in a very short amount of time and it will open doors for you. This is why I wonder about people that, like on my YouTube channel, I talk about like how to answer job interview questions and stuff. And, there's some awkward job interview questions, like things like, what is your weakness? What's the worst boss you've ever had? Tell me about a time you failed, like things like this. They're designed to be like, traps where you end up revealing what's bad about you, right? And I always get comments on my YouTube channel, sometimes in the live streams and sometimes on the videos, where people say, well, just, you got to turn the tables and put the screws to them. If they ask you, why did you apply for this job? You ask them, well, are you talking to any other candidates? Like, make it awkward for them, make it painful for them. And it's like, no, absolutely not. They're not going to hire someone that's a jackass to them. Unless they're psychopaths and this is like a hobby, like doing something, totally unpleasant is like their hobby, because they're a sociopath. And we do encounter those, right? People that don't have any real feelings and they don't give a crap about you. They care more about the table than they do about you, You know what I mean? So unless you're dealing with people like that, which is like only like what, 5% of the time, 2% of the time, something like that. Unless you're dealing with somebody like that, if you're dealing with a normal person, don't be a jackass to them. Don't turn questions around and, get them to sweat and make them feel awkward or, put them in their place when they ask you. It's like, no, absolutely not. They're not going to turn around and say, I picked them, the way that he like totally annoyed the hell out of me and pissed me off in the interview. So I'm going to take this home to my family. You know how he did that? That's what I want every day. So let's hire them, right? Nobody's going to say that. Okay. So having good soft skills where, you're the most awesome person, you're friendly, that you get along with them, even if that's a really tall order, and trust me, I understand. Right? That's what gets you selected. It's stupid, but it's true. Because humans are stupid. And this is human nature, right? We tend to like people that make us feel good about ourselves. Even when we're wrong, even when we're doing something totally idiotic, we still like people that'll tell us, hey, you're doing a great job and, you're crushing it, that kind of thing, right? That's human nature. So there you go. Don't go down there and point out all the idiocy from the recruiter or from the hiring manager, you know what I mean? Or point out everything bad that their company is doing. It's like you pretty much lost the interview right there. That's just the general rule. Where are we here? Pranay says, I still hide the fact that with my connections that I don't have a degree. Okay, well, don't feel too bad about it, Pranay. If you've got a lot of other things, you can make up for it in the sense that doors can open for you, okay? There's a lot of people with degrees. I think someone left a comment on my channel like an hour ago or something saying, I got a degree, it was a waste of time, it didn't do anything for me, nobody respects me because I have this degree. If I could go back, I would not get a degree and I would just go right into the workforce. So the grass is always greener, okay? You know what I mean? Hey, you could get my $100 MBA course. There you go. There's your degree. And that'll teach you a lot of very, very useful things about business. You'll be able to understand how your employer thinks. And that can help if you want to climb the ladder. It can also help if you want to just go your own way. Be your own boss and have your own business. If that's the kind of thing you want to do, you can. Any interaction with business, it'll help you because you're learning business. Wesley says, thank you for answering about why they ask those questions and how to network. How would you network for a licensed nursing home administrator when they are owned by outside companies? I don't know. I've never spoken to a nursing home administrator before. So maybe I'm fortunate in that fact. But this is something that you can easily find out, okay? So first of all, here's what I'd say. I'm going to give you a short version, and it's going to be incomplete because to make it complete, I'd be here for an hour. Go on LinkedIn, okay, and do a search. This is going to be a people search. So the results will be individuals, right? People. Limit it to your hometown. Okay, so geographically, it's limited to your hometown. Now, within your hometown, do a search for, what was it? Nursing home administrator. Okay, now you may need a premium version of LinkedIn so they unlock the search, right? If you don't want to pay for that, they may still have those free offers where, they'll give you a premium version of LinkedIn for a month for free. All you have to do is cancel before the end of the month and they don't charge you anything. So you could do that, right? And still do this. So type in the position. So what was it? Nursing home administrator. Now, the results you're going to get are people that either are in that role or they formerly were in that role. Okay? And first off, you can look at these people's, what do you call it? Their profile, right? So it's like looking at their resume. So you can see their background. So if you have ambitions to become a nursing home administrator, let's say, you're looking at the people who are in that role, you can see what they have. So if they all have an MBA, for example, then you would probably conclude, well, it seems like I need an MBA to get that job, right? If none of them have an MBA, then you can conclude that, well, it doesn't look like I need an MBA to get that job, right? So look at what they do have. Look at patterns. If they all have a certain thing, they all have 15 years experience working in a nursing home, then chances are that's what you need. to be considered for that position. Okay? It's not an ironclad rule, but it strongly suggests it, right? And so on. So you see what education they have, what experience they have. Then you have the option of reaching out to them, right? You found these people. You could reach out to them through a variety of methods. You could send them emails. You could send them connection requests. You could contact them on LinkedIn, and you could say, would I be able to give you a call? If you could give me your phone number, I have some questions. I'm someone who was looking for this. I'm looking to learn more about this role. I'm thinking of perhaps doing it myself. I'm wondering if it would be okay if I were to ask you a few quick questions about your experience when you were that role, to see if it's kind of something that makes sense for me to do. Would that be okay? Something like that. Now, a lot of people won't respond, or they'll say no. Some people say yes. You send this out to 100 people. You might get 5 people that say, sure, yeah, you can give me a call. Or what I prefer to do is say, can we meet? Let me know a date, time, place of your convenience, and I'll be there. I just, if you could spare half an hour, I'd very much like to speak to you about that. Something like that, right? That's even better. Then you're learning from the person. You could ask them about the job. What skills are necessary? What experiences are necessary? Where's the industry going? Questions like this that will help you. Right? So, I can go on and on, but you get the idea, right? Like this is what you can do with things like LinkedIn. Okay? Okay, I don't know every industry, every position. I don't think anyone does. But that's how you would get the answer to this question for you in your location. I'm in Canada. Now, the medical system up here is different from certain other countries. If you're in the US, certainly. So, the way they do something in Canada might not be the way they do it in the States. I don't know. When it comes to the medical stuff. So, you know what I mean? Internet Vibe says, what if someone lied about their job responsibilities in an interview? I don't know. What if they did? What's your question? Would they be able to find out? Maybe, maybe not. It depends what they lied about, and if it's important enough that the interviewer would ask them follow-up questions. They could maybe detect that, but maybe not. It depends. I'm sure if you exaggerate or omit small things, I don't think they can really tell most of the time. But I wouldn't recommend lying, like direct, outright lying. If the answer is yes and you say no, that's usually not a good thing. You know what I mean? Now, if it's a question of from one perspective, it might be a yes. Another perspective, it might be a no. It really is a matter of personal opinion. So you can maybe exaggerate or maybe just obfuscate details and say yes. It's a de facto yes. And many people do that. I don't think there's anything personally wrong with that. Personally, that's my personal opinion. But I tend to draw the line at outright lying. Right? If you don't have something and they say, do you have this? And you say yes, that's crossing the line. Bilal says, how should I respond to why are you switching job considering I was laid off a month ago? I've done a video on that. Go watch the video. I've done a couple of videos on that. They've got hundreds of thousands of views. Maybe go check that. That's a better answer than I can give you here. If you were laid off, usually there's no harm in saying I was laid off, especially if you were laid off with a bunch of other people at once. You can say, they laid off everyone in my work group, all at the same time. So that's why I'm looking for another position, right? It's not a reflection on you. The only reason why you would not want to disclose something is if it suggested that there's something wrong with you. You're a bad employee or something. And being laid off, like a true layoff without cause, there's no harm in that. There's no shame in that. It doesn't reflect on you at all, right? So the company was going bankrupt. They laid off everyone in my division or everyone in my department, whatever, right? So that's why I'm here. And there shouldn't be any issues with that. You could say termination without cause, meaning that there's nothing that you did that led to your layoff. It was simply they ran out of money, or it was a strategic decision or something like that. Does that make sense? Let me know if you guys have any other questions. We've reached the end of the chat. There are 26 people here. You guys are all awesome, and I mean you. Thank you very much for being here. You're doing some self-improvement. Hopefully this is helpful. If I can be of help, that's why I'm here. If I don't get any questions in the next few seconds, I'll probably start to wind this down. But I'm back on Wednesday. I have 2 live streams on Wednesday that are all about this kind of thing, about jobs and careers and all this stuff. And then I'm back on Friday. On Friday, I'm doing a bit of a different new live stream. It's episode 2 of a live stream I'm doing on private equity, which is like a new thing for me on this channel. A bit of an experiment. So if you really want to see me sweat under the pressure, not know what to say, come back on Friday for that. But I'm doing Honest HR Nitrous, this live stream, on Wednesday and on Friday also. Wesley says, that was great. Thank you. I wrote it down. I have experience. Yeah. Okay. So Wesley, look at the video I did that's linked in the description box of this live stream. It's called How Successful People Get Jobs. That's where I'm like on LinkedIn, and you're seeing my desktop, my desktop surface. You're seeing me do stuff in LinkedIn as I talk about this. So kind of a demonstration of what you can do, what it might look like. Okay. So if that helps, check that out. And then if you really want to go deeper beyond that, if this kind of opens the door to all this other stuff you can do, and you want to get the full meal deal, check out that course. If you are lost, if you don't know what to do, you want to get hired, but you don't know how to do it, it's not really going anywhere fast, you need some help, all my advice is in one place right here. Okay, there's a link to that course in the description. And also I've created a video that's like an FAQ, frequently asked questions. So you see exactly what the course is about, how it works, what you're getting. So it's as transparent as possible. So check that out. And if you're the title of today's episode was Mastering Career Advancement. And I talked about that at the very beginning of the live stream today. But consistent with that theme, we talked about tacking on skills as you climb the ladder. Okay. And one of the skills you're going to be tacking on is above average communication skills. And that's in that course right there. Write like a professional. It's about writing, but it's also about knowing what to say in different situations and what you should say. And that's great for climbing the ladder and putting yourself forward as a contender to be a manager or a senior manager or executive manager, depending on the case may be. So that's one of the things you have to tack on. It doesn't cover like managing money or assets or anything like that, but it does cover the communication skills. So check that out. All the money and assets, all that stuff is in here. Okay. The $100 MBA, that's where you learn business. So if you want to be an entrepreneur or you just want to understand your employer and understand what's important to them and how they think, and so how best to make decisions that they would agree with, right? And get a promotion if that's what your goal is, check that out. You're welcome, Patrick. You're welcome, Wesley, and to everyone, and to Bilal. Wesley says, I have experience as a nursing home administrator. It's a really hard job because people are dying, and I'm CEO of a multi-million-dollar business. That's why I'm trying to get a handyman business. Oh, okay. I see. It's like a personal thing. I can certainly understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Anyway, thanks for being here. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Take care of yourselves. I wish you every luck. I wish you all the best. And if you ever have questions about things, you can always come back and let me know on Wednesday, and I'll be happy to help you out. Take care.